Yes, sir, we promised you a great deal of here.
Conrad, the giant WrestleMania is running west. My God, what a It's not a world is watching.
Yeah, here we are. You know, last week I saturated you all with some Wolfpack-centric stuff, getting to know a bunch of top guys, but tonight we have another, I guess, top guy, right? Top guy? Terry, shake your head. Yeah, top guy. It doesn't matter what tier you're at. It really doesn't. Hell, I'd have just a normal person. Whatever. We got another top guy here with us that we're going to get to know, Terry Weaver. Otherwise known to us as T-Weave79. I see him all the time. Never had the chance to talk to him, so I'm really, really excited about that. We are going to be watching Fall Brawl 1996, which I have not seen in a very long time. So, as I usually say, and enjoy our new open. Away we go. Nostalgia.
Goosebumps.
That was awesome.
Ooh, I love that.
That was awesome. All right, let's get this shit started. So we always go around the room. We got the normal crew back with us. We got a lady here, so there's not going to be any potty talk like there was last week. Talking about eating panties. Anyway, Terry, it's so nice to formally meet you. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fat and old, but it's all good. You're coming from us from Huntsville, is that right?
A little bit outside of Huntsville, Harvest technically, but it's pretty much Huntsville.
I'm already going to start with the grilling questions. I'm seeing Mick Foley's book behind you. What you've got that proudly displays now. Is it because you're a fan of Mick or it's signed? What?
It is signed. It got signed a couple of weeks ago, actually, here on my calendar. On the 15th, he was in Huntsville for a show. He had a nice little moment with him there where they set down some brownies and ice cream in front of me. And I was right up by the stage, and he goes, "Hey, that looks good. Let me have a bite." So, of course, he said, "Have the whole damn thing." And then and there were 2 spoons, but, unfortunately, after the show, he did say it was all fake. I didn't really take a bite. I wanted him to. So.
And is that an Andre the Giant Funko Pop as well?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, if you can't tell behind me, I have a problem with Funko Pops.
Well, I've got several over here to the side. I just didn't want to have nothing but Funko Pops on the shelf there.
Yeah, see, I'm that guy. So over here is all WWE, and if you go this way, it's all The Office. So.
Oh, okay. A little bit of The Office. Got some other stuff. Yeah, I'm with
you. I just bought 2 new Funko Pops today through Mark Nelson, which was a 7-Eleven exclusive Stone Cold Steve Austin, and actually The Fiend. What the hell was that, Phil? You getting a phone call?
Not anymore.
One of them was the other one was a Fiend wearing a Christmas hat, and I'm like, I gotta have that. So 2 Funko Pops, $70 later. So let's do our quick go around the room. We're gonna watch the Open to Fall Brawl 96 and get right into this show. So Mr. Henry Mappet, how are you?
I am happier than a puppy with 2 Peters because this will be one of the last episodes we do where you see this. At the end of our filming in 2 weeks, I'm actually going to be in a new area, which should debut probably end of March, beginning of April.
You tell me that when you're moving. When are you moving?
Well, technically today, but the new place won't have internet until after my birthday. So I'm still here.
Okay. All right. I got you. Are you excited to be moving?
Many, many moons, yes.
Okay. Many moons, yes. Gotcha. Phil, I think by the time this drops, your love weekend will be over, but I know that you're not going to be with us in 2 recordings for your love weekend. Are you looking forward to your love weekend?
Oh, you have no idea. As much as I'm looking forward to that, I'm looking forward equally as much to not being around my children for 3 days, not hearing such phrases as "can I" and "will you get me" and "mommy, mommy, mommy," and no, not the duct tape again.
Hey, why do they say things like "no, not the duct tape again"?
It was a joke.
Because I worked with a guy for a little while who actually duct taped somebody to an office chair at work, and it didn't end well for either of them. By the way, I heard the story from both of them. She kind of had it coming, so.
As it shouldn't have. So, Brandy, my dear, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm super excited to film with Terry. I see you're wearing my shirt. He's wearing the shirt for the minor league baseball team, the Rocket City Trash Pandas.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, the Trash
Pandas.
Trash Pandas!
Yeah, we voted on it and everything. We voted for the name of the city and the name of the team.
That is so
This
awesome.
is what one.
Is it affiliated with MLB or is it independent?
It's the Angels AA team.
So
Goddamn,
as
okay.
soon as Shohei Ohtani or Mike Trout has to go through there, I'm going for a weekend at Terry's.
Yeah, so I'm rooting for injuries to the major league team, so I can see some guys come through.
Goddamn, the Trash Pandas.
Trash Pandas, isn't it great?
That is fantastic, actually. The Trash Pandas.
It's fun.
Other than that, Brandy, you're good.
Oh yes,
Doing well.
absolutely. I just finished my marketing course, and then we're on to statistics again.
Another statistics? Is it applied?
Yes.
I hated applied statistics. I took that class too, and you're at the same university I am, right? Was it right? SNHU.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that one. Beware. I can't sugarcoat that. I can't sugarcoat that.
I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not happy about it, but yes.
But you have to take it, right? I booked this shit. So let's go back to Michael, who was a fantastic companion last week with the Wolfpack to cue up moments that we may have wanted to cut out of there. He was helping us not get any heat. So Michael, how are you, bud?
I'm fantastic, and as always, Frank, you're too kind. I hope everybody can see me. Oh, look at that! No, there's two of me. Terry, please
Big fan,
explain
Michael.
to
Big
the-
fan.
Terry, please explain to the public what that is and why I now have my own fat head, which I love.
Can we save that for once we've started Fall Brawl 96, Money Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. No problem at all.
Like, I see you're not at the strip club this time.
No, I'm in the home office. I have been working on auditing all day. Took a break for Rebels Happy Hour earlier on AFS or on ad-free shows. There's a little AFS shout out. But other than that, I'm thrilled to be here filming with you guys.
I thought the strip club was the office.
It's actually more of a fish tank.
And to clarify, for public relations reason, it is not a strip club. It is a casino.
No, right. It's a casino. We always bust out.
You understand that actually makes it worse.
What'd you say, Henry?
I said he understands that correcting us in calling his hideout spot a strip club and actually calling it a casino actually kind of makes it worse, right?
It could, yeah. I mean,
We actually had to speak to each other.
so not true.
Wait.
Right.
People do that?
Let's guys, we're gonna start this show. Where'd my peacock go? All right, so
That's what she said.
oh, geez. That was perfect. Is everybody? So we want to go to Fall Brawl. You go to WWE, search Fall Brawl, and then it's season 4, episode obviously 1, and this is the 1996 Fall Brawl. A significant Fall Brawl. The last time we'll see Sting wrestling for over a year. I don't even know if you could count what he did as wrestling, but
This is the
If we
beginning
ever
of
cover
the,
Starrcade 97, that'll be the time to discuss that part.
this is the launching
Neat, so
pad
stay
for
tuned.
all. Yeah, this is the launching pad for WCW to its peak. I freaking love this show.
Hey,
are we all ready?
I'm
Yep,
absolutely
ready.
ready.
All right, Terry, you get to do the countdown because you're the guest, and I'm going to track it.
All right, everybody ready?
Absolutely.
Yes.
All zeros. 3,
Yes, sir.
2, 1, play.
Can I get a time check?
Oh my God.
You want a war?
Can you hear that? Okay.
You're gonna get one.
Yeah. No, I can no longer hear it. Okay.
You serious?
It sounds very faint.
No, he's right. It was good for a few seconds and then it dropped.
Man.
Is that better?
Yes. Yes.
I'm getting annoyed with it.
This is awful.
You can't hear it?
I mean, I can hear it, but it's like listening through a doorway with a cup.
It's like right up to my. It's piss out. It's like right up to my mic. I don't understand what the issue is.
Well, I'll tell you what's not awful. It's the fact that we have Terry with us tonight. And while we're going to our first match, Terry, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of what brought you to ad-free shows? And the fact that I want to touch on, I know you're from Alabama as well. So did you know Conrad before ad-free shows? And can you maybe talk about that a little bit for us tonight to get us started?
Yeah, that'll be a little interesting angle from my end because, I've lived in Huntsville since 2007. Grew up in Florence, Alabama, kind of upper northwest corner there. After I got out of college, I got a job up here. So I was driving here for a while and I decided to move up in 2007. Well, I started listening to Casio on the radio in the morning all the time. And once in a while, this mortgage guy would come on and talk about mortgages. Eventually he had Ric Flair on one of his commercials. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. Got no idea how he got Ric Flair on one of his commercials. So I had no idea. And I didn't watch wrestling at all from 99 until 2019. My youngest child came home from school one day and told me that John Cena was his favorite wrestler. And I had no idea how he knew that because he had never watched it. So we started watching it together. He's in 3rd grade now. And I pretty quickly started listening to podcasts. And obviously, when you start listening to podcasts, you get drawn into the Conrad podcast. And then I was like, well, might as well be a top guy around October of 2020. So that's kind of how that happened.
Real quick, guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to push to time code 36 minutes, 28 seconds, which is going to be Conan versus Juventud for the AAA World Heavyweight Championship. And then we're going to continue to grill Terry. Or actually, we're probably going to go into Map It at that point, right, Henry?
We can continue to grill him for a few minutes if you'd like, Frank, because
Okay.
it is a rather.
Grill me.
I'll grill you. All right, I'll
Yep.
grill you. It's grilling T-Weave here on Food Guy Theater. All right.
We're
So,
grilling, right? For food. Is that what we're talking about? Food?
I mean, I'm
Grilling?
fat, so I'll always talk about food. So let me know when everyone's at 36:28.
Ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Where do I hide my red card? Ready.
Okay. T-Weave, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I'm right. On this one in 3, 2, 1, and play. All right. So, Terry, how did so he was pretty big in that area to begin with, right? Like, were you aware of the mortgage company?
Yeah, I mean, I knew the mortgage company existed, but like I said, mostly I just heard him on the radio. I would listen to Casio It's on the Rocket local radio station, the Rock station, and then I listen to Sports Talk Radio down here. He would do both of those every morning, or at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Mhm.
So I would hear him, and he'd come on and shoot shit with those guys. I didn't know much about him at that point.
Did you?
Oh my God! Who would just tripped and killed himself?
Yeah, that was one of my notes.
That was, I forgot about that, where he turns. And
What was
falls over
worse,
the stairs.
that or the Titus World slide from Greatest Royal Rumble?
Oh,
no.
Titus World Slide is still the best.
Yeah, Titus World Slide. Yeah.
I mean, there was
But
Halloween
that's
Havoc
the new
99 where Sid Vicious comes out bleeding, and because I screwed up how we set up that show, we had no idea why.
Yeah, it made for some comedy. Right?
Hornswoggle's reaction to that made it better.
Should we put a Jimmy Hart counter up? See how many times we see Jimmy Hart tonight?
I don't think we see him again.
Really? Because he's usually involved in every match for no reason.
I'm trying to remember what WWF pay-per-view back in the day it was, where he was out there for like almost every match. It might have been a Survivor Series where he was.
That's every pay-per-view in 1989.
That was one of my notes. I said sometimes it feels like they're just looking for a manager for somebody, and it's always Jimmy Hart. Just throw Jimmy Hart out.
Now this was
as we're talking about the show, Terry, could you maybe elaborate? Why did you pick this specific show for us to watch tonight? And were you more a WCW fan or a WWF fan during this era?
So I was going to pick a show. Somebody else had decided this, and I gave it a thumbs up. But I was definitely more of a WCW fan. I think I probably did not watch WWF from about 93 or 94 up until, I don't guess I watch it now. So
oh my God, Conan!
It's been that long.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Conan had stiffened the fuck out of him.
So
yeah, I thought this was a good match.
So first of all, you said you stopped watching WWE in '93. That's actually when it started getting bad. And I look back fondly on that era. I think the era I always had an issue with was the pandemic era, the no fans thing. And they had to water down so much and not do anything spectacular or special, because why are they going to waste their millions of dollars on like a Goldberg or a Brock? Like Brock was gone for what, over a year, if not 2, right? Didn't he?
He was from Mania 36, which was the first pandemic event, and he didn't come back until SummerSlam 2021 right? in Vegas.
Yeah.
But I want to challenge you on that, Frank, because I think that there's a few characters that thrived during the pandemic era, a Bailey, and more specifically, as we're now on the road to WrestleMania during the modern time, look at a Roman Reigns, because if it's not for the COVID-19 pandemic, I don't think we get this version of Roman Reigns. And Terry, do you have any thoughts on Roman Reigns at all as a performer? How familiar are you with his work? Have you watched any of it lately with your son, the current product?
So my son kind of brought me back and then quit watching. I took him to a couple of shows or whatever, and then he just got interested in other things because he's a kid or whatever. I said I don't really watch it, but I've watched it a little bit. I like the character now. I like ruthless characters, So,
of course, yeah.
So the more, and I wasn't really familiar with it a whole lot because I started back in 19. When I came back in, I felt like I didn't know anybody hardly. So I went to the network and I watched every Royal Rumble match ever just to learn characters. So, I have seen a lot of that in the middle, but I didn't experience it.
So did you watch this year's Royal Rumble?
I did.
I've gone on record 1 billion times, and I'll say it 1 billion more. The Royal Rumble is my absolute favorite pay-per-view of all time. With that being said, that was one of the worst top 3 Rumbles I've ever seen in my life. Hated it.
Are you on drugs?
Absolutely.
Could not stand it. It was A, predictable, B, predictable, and C, shitty. Oh, and D, I almost forgot D, predictable.
Well, there were no legends.
There were no
I was
surprises.
expecting somebody to show up that was a big legend surprise in the men's match, at least, and nobody.
They had such an opportunity.
So you know what?
Go ahead.
Oh, you can go first. I was just going to say, go ahead.
They had such an opportunity. The Rumble for me has always been, in my mind, the perfect launching pad for a star right on the cuffs to go to the next level, like they did with Drew McIntyre. And they've done it with so many other people over there, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they had so much potential to give somebody a platform to win the Rumble, or somebody that people want, like an AJ Styles. Partially AJ Styles, but somebody like this is just throwing off my head, like a Damian Priest. Imagine him winning the Rumble. I mean, that his stock's pretty high right now with a lot of people. Vince is really high on that guy. But Brock Lesnar coming out number 30, called it. Brock Lesnar winning, called it. I mean, the moment Brock Lesnar lost to Bobby Lashley, I knew he was coming back to win a Rumble. It was that obvious.
So
now,
I don't mean to cut off this conversation, but I just noticed something in the match that we're watching. When WCW did the multi-ring events, like they did with Fall Brawl and with World War III, did they treat the second ring as like being outside the ring? Because it looked like Nick Patrick was trying to bring them both back into the ring, and it looked like he wanted to start a count, like he would right now as they're outside the ring.
That's a good question.
I think every match went to the other ring in some way.
Okay, I was going to say
just
that I
treated it like part of the ring, it seemed like.
I think they should have kept it. If they didn't, it should be that way. And if it is that way, that's good, because that brings a uniqueness to it.
Maybe they need to bring back the concept of having a double ring for the Royal Rumble.
And we lost Brandy.
Cycling back
She
to
just sent me a
something Frank
note
said
saying
about
her internet was acting up, just so you know. So she'll probably pop back in.
something that, because I want to focus on Henry's comment about the two rings for a second and kind of tie it in with Frank's comment on the pandemic. And I know they did it in NXT, but to me, that Thunderdome was the perfect time to do a War Games match in WWE, because you could do a two-ring setup without having to worry about fans or taking up, because one of the reasons that they've always said that Vince doesn't like the two-ring setup is it takes away space where you could fill seats. So to me, the pandemic era would have been a perfect time for a main roster War Games match.
I mean, you could do it at WrestleMania. You could legitimately take a two-ring setup and make it work for a WrestleMania, because the vast majority of them anymore are held in NFL-sized stadiums where you don't have to worry about losing that space. So you don't sell a few more seats down on the 50-yard line. Take MetLife Stadium, for example. That holds 80,000 people. You've still got 80,000 people in the stands and another 10 or 15,000 on the floor. What's it matter if you take out a little space one night, presuming they stay with the two-night format, which they're probably not going to, and add a second ring to it? A War Games match at WrestleMania would be special, because arguably this pay-per-view, after the creation of the War Games match, was one of the biggest WCW pay-per-views of the calendar year.
So
it was. And one of the most interesting things to me about that was that they all took place, most of them took place at the same venue. And keeping that in mind, Henry, do you want to map it where we talk about the venue, or do you want to do that later?
Yeah, we can now.
It sounds good to me. All right, here we go.
So one thing I thought about the two rings with some of these matches, they were really doing some crazy stuff, like double jumps off the ropes.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool.
Yeah. You got to get those high spots. You ready, Henry?
Ready.
Right.
Yo ho ho!
Hey!
Blow me down!
Na 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 na.
332 Kitty Hawk, USS Kitty Hawk. This is Namcom State Dr. Roger, over.
One of the biggest events of the year in the WCW calendar was always Fall Brawl. The 1996 edition of this event takes place at the Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Arena in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. This might actually be, within our new format, the smallest city that we've been in so far. Unlike most of our major cities where we cover other shows where there's big sports teams and there's other historical, significantly attractive things to do, I wasn't able to find much. So not to seem lazy, but I took part of what I'm about to read off of Wikipedia, and then I'm going to go somewhere else here for a second, so kind of bear with me. Winston-Salem is a city and the county seat of Forsyth County, North Carolina. In 2020, the population was just under 250,000 people, making it the second largest municipality in the Piedmont Triad region, whatever the hell that means. Winston-Salem, North Carolina used to be two places that were merged into one back in the 1850s thanks to the United States Postal Service. And the city itself actually took the name, or would ultimately end up being names of two of the products that were at one time sold by the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company, Winston and Salem cigarettes. Don't smoke, kids. It's bad for your health. We shouldn't do that anymore. In this week of September of 1996, there's actually a lot that goes on within the wrestling world. And I'm going to talk about that for a second because of a lack of anything really within our location. We go backwards in time just a second to September the 13th. ECW would hold two separate events over a span of 2 days. One titled The Unlucky Lottery in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. The other called When Worlds Collide, which I think they held at the ECW Arena in Philadelphia. On September the 13th, that main event would feature Sabu going over Rob Van Dam in a singles match. In the September 14th edition, you'd see Brian Lee and the Eliminators take out the Miracle Violence Connection in a six-man tag team match. Moving forward from here, something we don't talk about a lot on the show are a lot of the Mexican promotions. About 5 days after this, CMLL, I'm going to butcher how I say this, I'm sure, so kind of bear with me a minute here. The Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre. Did I say that right?
Very good.
Would host its 63rd anniversary show, which it would hold over two separate weekends. The September 20th edition garnered about 10,000 people in Mexico City and would see Rejo de Jalisco Jr. defeat Gran Marcus Jr. in a best 2 out of 3 falls match for the CMLL World Heavyweight title. The second edition, which took place on September the 27th, so about 12 days after this show, would see Emilio Charles Jr. defeat Silver King in a best 2 out of 3 falls hair versus mask match. Actually, it lists here as a hair versus hair match, but I believe Lucha de Apuestas is a mask versus hair, if I remember my Spanish correctly, Brandy. And I think she might be gone again. Our final wrestling event actually takes place 1 week after this pay-per-view, and it's something that we've covered in our archives. The World Wrestling Federation would put forth In Your House Mind Games. And what is unique to In Your House Mind Games, unlike WCW Fall Brawl, is the main event actually features a match for the World Heavyweight title, as Shawn Michaels would defeat Mankind by disqualification in that event. Of course, the main event of this show, which we haven't gotten to yet, features Team NWO versus Team WCW. And one of the reasons why we're watching this match right here between Conan and I really hate it when my brain stops working. Thank you. For the Mexican heavyweight title, as WCW billed it, is because our U.S. champion and our world champion are both in the War Games match that is our main event. Trying to think if there's anything else. Let me go back for a second here and consult my notes. As you can tell, I don't do this with a net. Let's see. The biggest story of this pay-per-view, however, leads into the War Games match, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about as we keep going, which will feature a WCW team consisting of Arn Anderson and the Nature Boy Ric Flair, Lex Luger, and Sting take on the New World Order featuring World Heavyweight Champion Hollywood Hogan, Hall and Nash, and Sting.
The fake Sting.
One of them's real, one of them's not. I suppose we'll never really know. Now, will we, Frank?
Oh boy! All right, I think we're coming to the close of this match. Oh shit, that was one hell of a drop.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to say this real quick, and Henry, before I apologize, because we're getting ready to the close, and I want to give everyone the new time code, and then we can continue.
That's fine.
This match wasn't as good as I remember it being.
This match is better than I thought it was.
I feel like it was a little for the two of them. I feel it was a little slow.
Part of the problem I have with this match is that Conan doesn't have a physical belt. Now, down the line here, he's going to win the U.S. title from Ric Flair, and they'll advertise that on TV as the Mexican heavyweight belt.
All right, guys, that was the end. He pretty much did like a big old razor's edge off the top rope. So let's go to our next time code. That is going to be 1 hour, 10 minutes, 35 seconds. And I need to get there too.
And while we're transitioning, I just wanted to make a small note. Henry did great pronouncing CMLL's name, but at this time they were still known as EMLL. They had not yet transitioned over to the CMLL name. So just a small note. They were Empresiana Mexicana de la Lucha Libre.
Well, there it is.
They moved over to CMLL.
I'm going to fly out to Alaska just to make out with you after saying something like that. It's like, hey, girl. So real quick, is everyone at the 1 hour, 10 minute, 35 second mark?
Yep.
We're good. Thumbs up, Henry. Are you going to red card me again? No, he's got, oh, that's a 1 minute. Waiting on Henry.
Are we going to have a finger poke of doom?
Right, here we go. Are you good, Phil?
I'm always good.
All right. Damn it. This. Jesus Christ. Hold on. Now I'm not good. Hold on. All right. In 3, 2, 1, play. All right. Here we go. So let's get into. Were you good, Henry, with Mappet?
I thought it was good. I need a cigarette after that one. Don't forget.
All right. So, another really kick-ass segment we have on here is Cash Course, where our boy, Mr. McClanahan, gives us the numbers. So here we go with that.
Money, 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 money.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for watching. For your cash course today, I'm going to do something that I did during the last one that I thought worked. Tonight, I won't be addressing attendance or merchandise. I want to focus, since we're on the time period of the Monday Night Wars, on one specific driver and metric, and it is the pay-per-view industry and pay-per-view buys. And I'm going to go out of my original order that I had intended because I want to piggyback off of the event Henry was just talking about, which was at this time in the Monday Night War, the two big players, WCW and WWE WWF, were producing events in the same month. Henry mentioned WWF's was Mind Games and WCW's is Fall Brawl. So let's look at the buy rates for those specifically. Fall Brawl 1996 had 230,000 buys, whereas Mind Games had 120,000 buys. That's a difference of 110,000 buys, which means that overall WCW got 48% more buys than the WWF for that particular month. Now, keeping that in mind, I want to focus in internally now on WCW, and one of the main reasons I did this was looking at the venue Henry mentioned. WCW had a habit of holding their events more specifically, kind of like what AEW is doing now or is attempting to do, where these pay-per-views would be held year after year in the same venue. So we're going to look at Fall Brawls 1995 to 1998 and see if we can identify some trends. For the first two of 1995 and 1996, I want to look not only at the buy at the number of buys, but at the dollar amount and revenue that was generated. So if we look at Fall Brawl 1995, there were 95,000 buys. Now, I did some research and I was able to determine that, and there might be a slight variance, but the overall price per pay-per-view was around $30. I believe it said $27.95, but I updated to $30 just for easy math. So what we saw was Fall Brawl 1995 generated about $2.9 million in revenue. Contrast that with Fall Brawl 1996's 230,000 buys at the same price point of $30. That generated $6.9 million of revenue. That variance of the 135,000 additional buys year over year would generate an additional $4,050,000 of additional revenue. Now, I thought it would be interesting to look at, did the upward trend continue over the next couple of years, or was there a dip? And actually, in the fall of 1997, we would see a decrease in buys from the 230,000 of 1996 down to about 195,000 in 1997. That's a drop off of about $55,000 buys, which I thought was interesting because one of the things that I do in my other job when I'm not serving as an analyst here is I do auditing, and we look at expectations and what would we expect. And our expectation would be that growth in the industry would equate to more pay-per-view buys. So I think the explanation for this might actually be the seasonal and the time of the year. You look at September, what's going on? Eric has mentioned this on 83 Weeks before. Kids are going back to school, families spending money on school shopping. You might not have as much of that discretionary income to spend on pay-per-view buys. Not something I want to spend a lot of time on, but something I thought was, at least worth a mention. Now, I'll end with this. When we look at Fall Brawl 1998, which again to me was interesting because we have to keep the time frame in mind here. Fall of 1998 is the Stone Cold Steve Austin era, and you can tell that WWF has already surpassed Monday Nitro and is starting to gain some steam. But overall, the pay-per-view buys for Fall Brawl 1998 would increase compared to both 1997 and 1996. For 1998 compared to 1997, buys were up from 195,000 to 275,000, an increase of about 80,000 buys or 41%. And they were up an additional 45,000 from 1996 versus 1998, or 20%. So overall, what should our key takeaways be from today's Cash Course? It's growth and expectation. We've seen significant growth here for WCW in 1996, especially when you look at 1995 to 1996, and when you look at WCW's performance compared to the competition. Our key driver here should be that there was definitely interest in the wrestling business at this time, and this has been your Cash Course.
So while we were listening to the Cash Course, I had a revelation that putting super in front of my name and putting sunglasses on is the key to success. And as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure ratings just spiked the moment I put these sunglasses on. As you can see, Super Callow was clearly a top tier competitor in WCW his entire career. So I'm following his route.
All right, I'm going to go to what we usually do is we read out the private chat. Usually it's raunchy. This time it's not. I wanted to bring Terry into light here, stating, not a big Callow fan. I didn't like this match much. Mysterio was great, but this match wasn't. I prefer the Conan Hoovy match by a lot. So can you? I again didn't know. Oh, his hat was attached. I don't know. I didn't know much. Going back to this time frame, I didn't know much about Lucha Libre wrestling, and I'd never really seen it. So I didn't quite understand Callow myself. I just knew I liked Mysterio, and anything he was involved in, he could have wrestled the role of shit, and I would have liked it.
This one was close to that.
But I have to say, my honest opinion is, I felt like Conan and Hoovy were a little. It felt slow, and it felt. It wasn't a bad match though, but it just felt slow to me. This is like Rey Mysterio before he ripped his knees apart. and it's a decent match. I just, again, and I don't know, Brandy, if you know anything about Super Callow, but I don't get it, and I still don't. 26 years later, I don't get it. I don't understand what's going on there.
Tanae provided some info there. He said that there was a rap group named Callow, and they were big fans of his and let him use the name, and he just put Super in front of it.
So it's okay. So that's his that's the Lucha Libre rap gimmick.
Yeah,
I forgot the hat, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'll put it away.
So Terry, I'm just curious. So again, this is the grilling part. What do you do for a living?
Software engineer.
Software engineer.
For a second, I thought you said softcore engineer, like softcore porn.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
Time code.
Time code. Yep. Is this a work from home gig, or you go to the office?
No, I mean a lot of the people I work with work from home, but I have to go in.
I've said this before, is that at first I thought I was the luckiest guy alive because I'm like, I just get to work from home all day. But what I found myself doing was working 7 days a week and not stopping. Like, there were days I didn't eat. There were days, it was just constant. So I've since left that job and gone to another one where I need to be in the office. So I actually do you prefer to be in the office? Do you like working from home too?
Most of the time, I prefer to be there. I just feel like I can focus better there.
Yeah.
Because if I'm at home, I come up with a reason not to focus as well. I guess that's just my brain, the way it works. But sometimes I would prefer to have the option to be at home. I just don't for this one.
You don't even have the option?
Not most of the time. We did get sent home for 5 days because somebody got COVID. So I had to come up with something to do for 5 days. But other than that, it wasn't really something I could really do too much.
I've done the same thing kind of as you, Terry and Frank, with being in public accounting. We've been on and off, but mostly home since the pandemic started in March of 2020. And actually, that's what, and I won't rehash the story here because I kind of did last week, but the pandemic and working from home is a lot of what led me to ad free shows because it provided such great content. But I think I'm kind of in your boat, Terry, where there's days I want to be in the office, but I don't mind working from home. But I definitely understand your perspective, Frank, of working the 7 days a week, kind of, even if it's not all day, every day, when it's there and it's accessible, you're going to work on it. And I'm guilty of it. I'm recording on my iPad. Sitting behind me is my second screen for work and my work laptop. I was doing auditing today while I was doing some ad-free show stuff, while I was watching some ad-free show stuff. And I will do it after we're done recording tonight. But I don't mind the work. But I think the work from home atmosphere is very interesting. And I think it's changing dynamics like that. And we look at the changing dynamics of what was really going on here for WWF and WCW, because I don't think it can be stated well enough that 1996 really was a shift for both companies with the growth of the NWO. You're going to see Steve Austin starting to evolve on the other channel. It's a really unique time frame for the business. And Terry, I want to say that actually you're one of my favorite guests because I heard you mention that you had notes on the previous match. So I want to make sure, did we cover was there anything you wanted to mention from your notes or anything you'd like to mention while we're covering this match? Because I'm just fascinated and I love the fact that you came prepared. That's somebody.
Well, one of my general statements was going to be, I prepared more for this than I do most meetings at work. So.
Wow.
You're giving us too much credit.
Yeah. Well, there was one spot. I mean, I don't know. We'd have to be at that spot.
Yeah.
It was one of those spots where it's like, hey, you hang on the ropes and somehow try to make that look real while I get up on the turnbuckle and come fly and hit you. Like those spots, I want to keep a little kayfabe a little bit.
I want to follow up on that really quick, Terry, if I can, just because it reminded me of something JR says all the time. What are your thoughts on that spot where the one guy goes to the top rope and all the other guys in the match, baby faces and heels, and JR said it, they all kind of cluster up like quail and wait to catch him? What are your thoughts on kind of those same more choreographed spots in wrestling?
The more I see it, the more I'm okay, I guess. It's kind of like one spot I always thought, and this has been for decades, is somebody goes to the top rope, and the move they seem to be making is a jump to just stand next to the guy. and it always gets reversed with like somebody punching them or something. It's like, what were you even trying to do before you got punched?
Right.
Nah.
It's just a spot in a match. I mean, first, or real quick, Brandy, was that Nelson?
No, that
Okay.
was my
All right.
uncle.
All right, you don't have to tell me. I just because I told Nelson earlier today we were recording, so some bitch called you. The Bay Area bastard was gonna get a promo cut on him right now, but
no, I already got my daily phone call in earlier. We're good.
Oh, okay.
So let me
He would, though.
let's
he
stop asking the light, easy pussyfoot questions. Let's get to the hard hitting shit.
Yeah.
Terry, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being mild internet chat room, 10 being Malcolm McClanahan hiding outside of Charlotte Flair's bushes next to her house, how much do you stalk Conrad on a daily basis?
Do I stalk Conrad? None.
I don't know what you're talking about, Phil. I absolutely would never do that.
Get those binoculars out of the background, then.
Do you know where he lives?
No, the general area.
He's in the
I mean,
general area.
I'm northwest and he's southeast. It's basically it's like 30 minutes away.
Because
Well, if you listen to Bruce, you just have to look for the big house on the hill with the sign that says Conradison on it.
The helicopter landing.
Yeah, but there's a lot of big houses on the hill down there. You know, he's not the only one. And he did say he looks over like the state park where I've been camping there, but I don't know. I've never investigated. We'll say it that way.
I really wanted you to be streaming this, to be joining us like inside your car, parked in front of Conrad's house, because I know he's probably not going to let you in. But just sit outside the house with your phone, just like that would have been like probably the coolest thing I've ever seen on this show.
That would have reminded me, Phil, and I don't know why, but just describing that kind of that perspective reminds me of the DX invasion of the WCW event at the Norfolk Scope. And I think that was one of the things here I kind of wanted to talk about with you, Terry, is what are your thoughts on this concept of WCW versus NWO in a War Games match? Because to me, and keep in mind, I was not watching the product at the time. I wasn't even a full year old, or I was just a little over a year old.
You got to get that in every time.
So
Every show, he's got to get that shit in every time. That he was only 1 year old when we were watching. I was only 5 when this happened. You're old. Burr, 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 burr.
I'll be 16 when we're watching the show with Brad Stan for Money in the Bank, so you won't have to hear about it as much then.
I was 32, so shut up.
And I was 22, so double shut up.
Oh man, I guess I was 33.
So in a quick cash course there, Frank, that means you would have been double my age.
Oh wow, you really.
So what was the question?
Middle finger you right now, don't you?
The question was what were your thoughts on having a War Games match already for WCW versus NWO? I mean, it's gonna work, and it's gonna really put the wheels in motion for the next year. But do you think it was in some ways rushed storytelling? Do you think we should have done something different, or maybe even what about if we moved the War Games match to Starrcade of 1996, which no matter what Eric Bischoff says, to me, Starrcade is the tentpole event, not Halloween Havoc.
So I guess I didn't really pay attention to the dates involved here. I thought it was funny when they were doing some of the segments, they were calling it the attack. I don't remember them calling it the attack. That was weird. But I didn't have a problem with it around here. Obviously the issue I had with the NWO eventually was just like they were trying to do multiple brands and didn't know how to do it. And
right.
And it just kind of just kept going. And you're like, what's going to happen with this? And you throw in Goldberg in there. You don't know what to do with him either. This is not a shot at Eric anyway. But
in your opinion, was the NWO a victim of its own success?
I don't know. Maybe it just got way too big, way too big with different branches of the NWO, the LWO, and all that stuff.
To throw a little flavor to that question, Eric Bischoff was quoted on this show as saying that he actually got lucky with the NWO and he didn't really expect to get what he got out of the situation. Do you think with the NWO, do we have DX? Because a lot of people say that DX was just like a raunchier version of the NWO. And a lot of people like to claim that. No, the NWO elevated DX. Like, do they coexist? Did you not have one without the other?
I don't think WCW has the success it did without the NWO. So I don't think WWF feels the pressure, and then I don't think DX has.
See, I kind of think that if WWE didn't have DX, the NWO would have ended sooner. Because DX was pushing the envelope. I mean, Bischoff has said multiple times they took our formula and did it better with DX. So without DX, they just in the NWO go with a different storyline because they don't have that raunchy shit on the Attitude Era WWE programming to go up against?
That's a fantastic question, Phil. I've never ever looked at it that way, but that's a really interesting question because I agree. I think DX. So I'll answer part one first. I think DX in some form would have happened. I don't know if it would have been as raunchy. I don't even know if you call it DX, but just knowing the real life friendship that existed at the time between Triple H and Shawn, I think you do get some kind of faction with the two of them. I don't know what it looks like. I will say this, I don't think it's as successful without the NWO. I think the NWO did revolutionize the business and gave it that edgier feeling. Because keep in mind, if we don't get the NWO, we don't get the Hogan heel turn. And in my opinion, if we don't get the Hogan heel turn, and this is really going down the rabbit hole, but if we don't get the Hogan heel turn, I think you could make the case when Shawn loses his smile, we might see Hulk Hogan back in the WWF in 1997 or 1998. I could see that. I'd love to get everybody's thoughts on that.
I've been thinking about using the excuse I lost my smile at work to get out of work for a few weeks. Do you think they would buy that?
Really?
Not if you walk into work looking like you just came off a 10-day bender with drugs, like you do right now.
No, I do not look like a 10-day bender. I look like Super Calo's cousin, okay? This shit's over. I'm keeping it forever. Not really.
I was going to say, with all your quick changes that you've done during the show, Phil, you've got quite the impressive box of gimmicks there in your room.
I borrowed it from DDP.
He's super calofragilistic. Oh, well. That was stupid, but
Oh my gosh, Mary Pop at the Top Guy Theater.
Let me just say this. A couple.
I'm a dad. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm a dad too, but I get you.
That was a great joke, Terry. I love that.
See, you have son, daughter?
I've got one daughter. She's oldest, and two sons.
Yeah, bless you, because I've got one girl and she drives me crazy. I love her so much, but she drives me nuts.
Oh, yeah.
And growing up, well, she's 12 now, and it was always like I could quote like the movie Tangled. That was her movie. She loved that movie. Watched it over and over and over and over again. But going back to some of the questions, I really think DX would have happened if there was no NWO. I think DX in some iteration would have happened. Now we have to say, if there was no NWO, WCW stayed the way it was and was just as regional promotion, maybe it doesn't, because the WWF doesn't feel the pressure, and we've got Dunk the Clown in 2001 still. But if WCW just went in another angle and was besting WWE, I think they would have went down that road and gotten edgier and raunchier. So I think DX would have still happened. And I really like the point of maybe, if Shawn loses his smile, goes away, and Hogan comes back. I don't know that if he went back to WWF, would it have worked? I mean, in order for Hulk Hogan to stay relevant, he had to turn heel. He had to reinvent himself. All these wrestlers reinvent themselves at some point in time. I mean, even Shawn Michaels, the Rockers, then he's the Heartbreak Kid, and then he's the sexy boy, and then he's gone for a while, and he comes back and he's, very much into the Lord. And he reinvents himself until, I mean, the Undertaker. Look at Taker. Like he's the gray Taker, then he's the purple Taker, then he's the biker, or no, then he's the Ministry Taker, then he's the biker, then he goes back to the Undertaker. I mean, this constant reinventing them. You have to stay relevant in some way, and that's why I think Roman Reigns did what he did, because he's clearly over, but he's getting booed out of the place. You've got to reinvent yourself. Boom, there's the head of the table, and we have go ahead, Terry.
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt there. I was just letting
no. I want to hear from you.
But I saw Mike's finger up, so I figured I'd slide in before him.
Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
We're talking about the DX happened. Well, I guess it really, the click was there, right? So I guess what part of this is Hall and Nash leaving? Because if Hall and Nash didn't leave, then the click's still there in full force, and maybe the DX happens and it includes them, and then WCW is still toast at that point and never reaches anything close to what they were.
That could
and then
be
Hogan
interesting.
probably doesn't flip over at that point. Who knows what happens?
Okay, so I had one question, but I'll ask it later because it really applies to any show. I want to piggyback off Terry's thing here really quick, and it's going to be a little bit of an NWO and WWF discussion point. What does I want to focus on a show from our archives for a second, Canadian Stampede, that we watched with Justin Davis, our good friend from Ringside Rant, because that talks about the Hart Foundation feud. And I just had this thought, what would a Click versus Hart Foundation feud look like in 1997 if Scott and Kevin stayed in WWF? Because I think that could have been an interesting feud. And do you think that you could have still done it where Bret Hart had that incredible heel run? So something for everyone to think about. And because you gave me the idea, Terry, let's start with you.
Well, not like I said, I didn't really watch the WWF a lot, so I missed a lot of that anyway. If they had stayed over there, maybe I would have. So I don't have a lot to add there, but I mean, that's a lot of star power, so that sounds pretty good.
Brady's got her hand up, which means she's about to roast somebody. I'm scared.
Yeah.
You should be. No, it usually just means I have something to say. When I start moving my hand and I can't get called on fast enough, that's when you know there's a problem.
There's a heat-seeking moment.
Indeed. I think if Hall and Nash had stayed in WWE and they would have had this Hart Foundation versus the Click, even if they just called it, I don't even know if it would have been DX, if they had just called it, the two dudes with attitude and Razor Ramon or whatever. It would have gotten so nasty personal because Shawn would have felt safe and protected to go that extra mile, because the bad blood between Bret and Shawn at this time period in 97 specifically was so
hatred.
They were having a literal cat fight in the back. We're thinking these two big wrestler dudes are going to fight mano y mano. No, they're ripping each other's hair out in the back. And so I just think it would have gotten nasty, and I think that would have been really hard to sort of keep on the level so that things weren't just boiling over all the time, because I think you put Bret and Shawn together, especially in that 96, 97 timeframe, it's very caustic, and there's always these confrontations going on in the back. Mostly Shawn's fault because he was prick.
And on drugs.
I think it would have been. I don't know if that would have been good, because that could have literally gone into something very horribly nasty wrong, because Shawn obviously doesn't give a fuck at this time period, because he's he's selfish. He thinks he's the greatest thing on God's green earth and hopped up on every kind of drug there is. And I just think it would have been a train looking to go off the rails.
Sort of like last week's show with the Wolfpack. Yeah.
Before we get to the next person, I saw in the
Thank you for saving me from that, by the way.
You're very freaking welcome.
Before we get to the next person, I just saw in the comments, Terry, do you have a follow-up?
No, I told him that, and that was my follow-up that led to yours.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
So, real quick, we're watching Harlem Heat and the Nasty Boys, and these people, I have to tell you, I'm fairly certain that they're being stiff as hell with each other in this match.
Oh, I'm sure.
I loved the Harlem Heat back then. That they were my favorite tag team in the WCW. Although I don't like what Sherry's wearing for this match. It doesn't do her any justice. She looks like a biker chick, and I don't think that kind of fits her whole gimmick with Harlem Heat. Now, the question. I think a Click versus Hart Foundation would have been phenomenal, but I think they would have had to have strengthened the Hart Foundation, because if you look at the Hart Foundation, I think there are two weak links in the Hart Foundation, and that's the Anvil, because he was aging and he looked it. I mean, I know he was a little bit older than Brett, and then unfortunately, I love Brian Pillman, but they would have had to strengthen it to go up against Triple H. I mean, you could have looked at Triple H and X-Pac. What are you doing, Phil?
Sorry, Brandy gets to wave her hand really fast when she's pissed.
Are you pissed at me?
I'm kidding. I'm
Oh,
messing. I don't have a problem with anything
Oh,
you said.
okay. I'm just saying, like, for it to be like a real, big faction versus faction, you have to strengthen it up a little bit.
No, that's actually a really good point. I never really thought about that, but I mean, I can see Anvil being a weak link, but Brian Pillman, I think, still had some gas left in the tank, even necessarily not in the ring. Even if he was just a mouthpiece for the Hart Foundation, Brian Pillman still
I could
had
see that. I could easily see that.
Now, talking about Brian's, I wanted to go ask Terry this, because obviously, big time WCW fan. Did you believe what was happening with him in WCW when he was like, I respect you, Booker Man, and walked out? Do you remember all of that?
I don't know if I was watching at the time. What year was that? Do you remember?
Was that was the end of 95?
95 or late 95, early 96.
It might have been Super Brawl in 96.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had his accident a couple weeks after and signed with WWE. But it was.
I don't remember that well. I don't remember when it was happening. That was kind of toward the end of high school, so I was busy with other things. But
I bet you were.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I picked it up 96 again or something. So maybe I kind of come back after that. But I loved Pillman when he was really first coming on the scene in WCW, and I thought he was just awesome. That was kind of the era that I really was into it. Really early 90s, late 80s.
Yeah, that's the thing. Wrestling for me, and I've told this story on here before. Wrestling for me, I was hideously made fun of between like 1992 and 1997 until it got cool to be a wrestling fan again. I never wavered on it. So I think a lot of people, like you were saying, that that was high school, I had other things going on. Wrestling wasn't cool then. When you got back into it, you got back into it before it was cool again too. But you probably rode it right through. I mean, I remember going to school with Shawn Michaels shirts on and getting laughed at, and then I was the coolest shit wearing my Austin 316 shirt, in 1998. Or my NWO shirt. So there's definitely waves of popularity in wrestling. I mean, I think we're in a down wave of popularity now. Terry, do you watch AEW?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's pretty much what I watch now is AEW. Go to shows if they're close.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. You went to 2 already. Why did I say do you watch AEW? Jesus.
Yeah.
You went to Atlanta and you went to Nashville.
Well, let's see. So I went to Huntsville, then All Out, then Atlanta, then Nashville.
Wait a minute. You were at Top Guy Weekend?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where the fuck was I?
So you were sitting at the other table in front of us with like Kolb and all of them, and he was at the table behind you.
I'm so sorry, Gary.
With
That's
me
okay.
and Mimi
I knew nobody at that point.
Sorensen and Mark Nelson. Joey was sitting with us. Yeah.
I just want to apologize to you, Terry, for you having to sit behind us, because we were definitely the most disruptive table at the show.
No, we weren't.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
we weren't. We were not the most disruptive.
You wouldn't. You won't be this year. If I'm at Top Guy weekend, I'm gonna be the chaperone.
Oh, for Christ's sakes.
We're gonna need like 3 or 4 tables because right now our kind of group has grown to like I want to say it's between 20 and 30 people that we all kind of talk regularly. So we're gonna have like 2 or 3 tables full.
I did Christmas cards. It's about 20 some people. By the way, Terry, your gift is still sitting on my desk. Your card is on its way. I promise. I just got so
at least you got so okay. Real talk. The week we're filming this Monday was President's Day, and I had literally had everybody's Christmas gifts sitting on my couch since December. So on President's Day, because I had the day off of work, I went and picked up priority mailers and boxed everything up and sent everything out. So I got my gifts out before Money Mike did for Terry.
Yes, you did. I have to. I will publicly say this. Thank you for making me an official member of the Bills Mafia. Your gift arrived yesterday, and I very much appreciate it.
You're welcome. I tried
to
tailor 4 days
from
gift
Kodiak
everybody's
to
personality.
North Alabama.
Yeah, priority mail, baby. And we didn't have any weather issues. So
Terry,
I do have a go ahead.
Real quick, I'm curious. I'm curious as to what his sports allegiances are.
Well, you can see his college diploma there in the background.
Oh yeah, so
I can't tell. I know it's a diploma, but I can't tell.
So I attended Auburn University, War Eagle.
Auburn. Okay.
So when I'm on Zoom with Pony or something, I'm going to bring that up and let him cuss me or something like that. So I'm getting used to these national championship game really being something I won't watch. It's either Alabama or Georgia these days. That's our 2 rivals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Braves fan, so that was a good thing.
Hell yeah.
That's been a long time coming, since before this pay-per-view. Really never had an NFL team, just because growing up we didn't have anybody but the Falcons, and who wants to be a Falcons fan,
Not sorry, Lauren.
Yeah, it's just how it is. Let's see what else, and just not into basketball. I'll do college basketball, to whatever sport. If we're doing curling, I'll support my college team, but just don't watch the NBA or anything, or hadn't really followed hockey at all.
Speaking of hockey, go Sharks! They're playing the Kraken tonight. Let's go!
I want to point this out real quick. We've been watching this match for like 16 hours now because it's got off on whatever end.
It's a long one.
But I would like to point out how proud I am of all of us, because nobody has made a Colonel Robert Parker hog joke this entire match.
Not yet.
Not yet. That's true.
Should we talk about that?
We talked about Sherry. I'd rather talk about Sherry than.
Yeah, let's talk about Sherry.
I don't. Right?
I'd rather talk about Sherry a few years before this.
I love Sherry to death, and she's a legend, a certified legend, and a pioneer. But she looks like a middle-aged mom trying to be cool.
All right, I'm glad you said it, because honestly, she looks a little bit like a dude.
She does, and she usually wears things that are very flattering to her body, and she's wearing a very boxy vest and jeans that are not cut for her body, and chaps that are not flattering to her body shape. And it's like, what happened?
And she has her hair. I thought she had a mullet. At first, I was like, "Who the hell is that?"
I think it is like a perm mullet kind of something.
Like she did it that way. Like it's yeah.
No, it's intentional, but it's like, girl, you are here managing Harlem Heat, not the Nasty Boys. You don't need to wear a mullet.
So one thing that kind of leads to one of my notes, and it leads us in another direction. When I came back, one of the things I really liked was, after being gone from watching for 20 years, in the meantime, women's wrestling really took off.
Yes,
I came back, and realistically, at least when I started watching again, I much preferred the WWE women over the men, because there was just so much more star power there. And that's kind of slacked off with some of them being gone and hurt and stuff, but maybe it's coming back a little bit. But I look at Sherry, you know, she was a wrestler and there just wasn't women's wrestling. So she had to be a manager. And that kind of sucks because if there was a thing, she could have done something, but, you know, it's not how it was. Wrong time.
And here she is.
The women's wrestling.
I'm your local women's wrestling advocate. Check my workout. Last word on pro wrestling.
So it legitimately looks like she cracked that cane over the back of Knobs's.
I was about to say that. It looked like she
head.
legit just killed him.
Yeah.
She tried to anyway.
Wow.
But the women's rumble, we were talking about the rumble earlier, and the women's rumble was by far superior to the men's rumble.
100% agree.
So I can't say enough about women's wrestling. There's so many talented women out there now. There's so many opportunities now. I mean, even with WWE, they announced recently that Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair are going to main event night 1 of WrestleMania.
That's 3 WrestleManias in a row we've had a women's main event.
We've had a women's main event for 3 years. That's incredible.
I waited on Mike to get back, but I'm not a huge Charlotte fan.
That's wonderful.
Minority. I'm not as much of a fan as he is.
Nobody is as much of a fan as he is. Nobody.
Can you please say that again while holding up the money mic, fathead?
Oh, yeah. Becky is way better than Charlotte. I could probably honestly.
Oh no!
Oh, we got Alabama internet. We got Pennsylvania internet. We got Kodiak internet.
Earlier we had Kodiak internet. I think it's just because we had a kind of a rush in time period. Like if there's a lot of activity, you know, everybody's kind of slows down while they try and balance the load.
That's what she said.
Mm-hmm. Well, also in my house, I recently got my uncles who I live with to cut the cord. I have everybody in my house on streaming. So it's a little bit different, but sometimes it happens.
Yeah, so I had to
cable is because I get it for free from my work.
You shut your whore mouth.
Yeah, I recently upgraded my internet to Verizon Gigabit because I was just so tired of shit.
My thing, I think personally, and it's nothing against the platform because I know we do a lot of them, but I think my issues are the StreamYard. It's something with the bandwidth. Even last night when I was on location on their Wi-Fi, which is historically very good, if there gets to be too many people in one of these meetings, that tends to be where the issue persists. But we work through it and we brawl with the internet just like Fall Brawl.
I am a firm believer in hardline on your computer and on your whatever your primary living room device is, whether it's a PlayStation, a television, whatever it is. Hardline 100%.
And this has been Tech Talk with Top Guy Theater.
We got Tech Talk.
I don't know, Phil. I mean, I'm running everything off my Wi-Fi, and everything for me seems to be working.
All right. Did you do that? Okay. Did you do that, Henry?
Uh-huh.
Right, that was fucking good. That was
good. I mean, there are some people that have good Wi-Fi and good areas that have good streaming. You know, I'm sure if I unplugged my hardline from my computer, I'd still be doing okay. But if anybody watches any old school TGT first 10 episodes and they saw how shitty my internet was, and I switched over to hardline, it's been a difference between night and day.
Absolutely. And as we see Macho Man Randy Savage make his way around the ring, ooh, yeah.
Speaking of Macho Man, Terry's back.
Ooh, yeah. Snap.
Don't worry, Terry. We're all brawling. It's a winter brawl. We're all winter brawling with the internet tonight, and it's a war for games.
Yeah, he froze again. It's just one of those.
It's terrible. But what's not terrible is
there he is. We got him. There you are.
I don't know.
Terry, it's all good, dude. We've all had our.
We're all like I said. It's a winter brawl with the internet, and it's the War Games Team TGT versus the internet.
Frustrating. Yeah. It really is.
It's who's your provider out there?
Well, so I just moved, and I had Uverse at the old house, and it was great. but I got MediaCom now, and it's hit and miss.
Well, did the Giant just run to the ring?
Yes, he did. He did.
I didn't know he could move that fast.
Look, this is 26 years old, so I'm going to spoiler alert, but I'm also shocked because it says on my notes, the Giant defeats Randy Savage. Randy Savage puts the Giant over in this match. So,
yeah.
And I don't remember the story. Does anyone remember the storyline behind it? Why they were facing each other?
No.
Yeah,
Nope.
It's just kind of there, and then after this is the War Games.
Right.
So,
right. So we also look at Macho Man's tights and how 90s that print is.
Well, it's
like
1996.
the zebra print with the big blocks and neon colors and
shit.
so 90s.
He tried. Did you? So Terry, you watched WWF in the late 80s, early 90s, right?
Started watching WWF probably 86.
All right, so you were very familiar with Randy.
Oh, he's probably my all-time favorite.
Okay, so it wasn't
the point I was about to make when I got cut off was that year ago I could probably say Becky Lynch was my favorite just overall wrestler. So that was kind of an awesome thing that
I was actually
Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, current modern day product, who your number one picks were, your favorites in WWE, AEW, or any other, wrestling promotion for that matter. If you have like a top guy or top couple of guys or girls.
I really like the 5 tool people. The ones that can talk, the ones that look good. And Becky looks good. And the ones that can just get in there and get dirty, because that was one thing I was really impressed with the women when I came back, that they do that. So,
Yeah, I'm.
Terry, you talk about.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Phil.
No, I was gonna say I'm a huge. If you look at all the AEW World Championships, and I know somehow Quello's going to feel this and want to punch me in the balls, but I feel like Kenny Omega's world title reign was the most relevant for the title. Not taking away from John Moxley or anybody else, but there was always some sort of stakes and some sort of it felt like they made it feel larger with every match that he had. Like there was a meaning behind it. Jericho, obviously he was the first one, but after that it was just kind of him having the title. And after his match with Cody, he didn't really have anything relevant. I don't think. My opinion, but yeah, somebody like a Kenny Omega that can talk, have a good match, do everything in the ring. That's the kind of guys I like to watch. Some people just like promo guys like The Rock. Some people just like match guys like the Young Bucks. Who, sorry guys, Young Bucks can't cut a promo. I don't even know where the hell I'm going with this point, to be honest. I just was agreeing with you.
Edit point. Yeah. I'm curious, Terry. Who like from a women's perspective? Who do you like in AEW?
Besides Becky Lynch, but we've already covered that.
AEW.
Because I feel like their women's division it's getting better, but it needs some work.
I agree.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am on it. I like Thunder Rosa, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm a Rosa guy.
She's
I like
very
DMD.
talented.
I'm also, a lot of people look at me funny, but I like Nyla Rose a lot.
I love Nyla Rose. Nyla is amazing.
Ruby Soho.
By the way, by the time this is aired, I'm just going to go out and say it right now. We have a new AEW Women's Champion in Thunder Rosa, ending the long tyrannical reign of Dr. Britt Baker, and she finally gets the accolades she deserves.
That's legitimately almost as bad as your take that Mankind devalued the title by being champion in '99.
You're going to mention that every episode from now until the rest of time, aren't you?
Could we get your thoughts on that, Terry, please, before we talk about the current product a little more? What are your thoughts on in this era where 1996, where Mankind was just kind of getting under his way to become the megastar and Hall of Famer that he is. What are your thoughts on someone saying that they thought Mankind should have never been world champion and that his reigns devalued the title?
Okay.
So as a guy,
hang on. Let me. You guys can go back and watch this. I didn't say Mankind should never have been world champion. I said Mankind's championship reigns weren't relevant. Huge difference.
Let me see.
so as a guy that was watching Nitro when Tony said that'll put butts in seats, and I did not change the channel because, like I said, I didn't watch WWF at all. Looking back, I'm really glad that happened because, you know, I always loved Cactus Jack. Didn't really watch when Mankind was a thing. Or, you know, it was pretty cool going back and watching the Rumble when he did all three characters in the one Rumble. You know, I like that a lot. But I didn't watch enough to really know. I don't know if you're saying they didn't do enough with it or what, but I'm glad it happened no matter what it was. Because even with, like, I guess he beat The Rock, right? So the fact that they would do that for him, I thought he had put his body through enough and entertained people enough over the years that it was pretty great.
So I think to follow up with a question with that, because you talked about how Mankind had all these different characters, and later on tonight we're going to see the start of one of the best character transformations with Crow Sting, which is eventually going to be the storyline of 1997. I thought of this question earlier and I wanted to ask it, but I'll pose it to the group now because we're talking about how so many people, Undertaker, Sting, you know, they've all reinvented themselves so many times. Can you think of a singular character that from their national debut with a large promotion to present day never had a character reinvention, was always kind of themselves, and never did a major update or overhaul on their character? Because I honestly don't know if there's one out there, and I'm genuinely curious to get all your thoughts. I'll start with let's start with Frank.
Time out for a second.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna see if I can make this happen. Hang on a second. Let's see if it works.
You're saying somebody that didn't change? Just to be clear before we get
I can already tell.
Yeah, somebody that didn't.
It's not working. Oh, is it?
Kind of.
What are you even doing?
That's I can't even. I was gonna play the heat-seeking moment that spawned that whole Mankind thing, but go to Terry. Let Terry answer that question.
So is that what you're asking? Who? Because I kind of looked away for a second. You're saying what big wrestler did not change themselves? Maybe I misunderstood.
Michael, you there?
Michael McClanahan.
Can you hear us?
You all right? You there?
Yeah.
Can you
hear me?
Can you?
I got
Can you hear me?
You're live, pal.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay. Oh yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear. So the question was, I was waiting for that heat-seeking moment caused the delay, but the question was, can you think of any character that from their national television debut to the time they retired never had a major overhaul of their character?
I mean, Andre didn't
I'm
really
talking about
change
like mega stars.
Andre flipped, but I mean, you got to expect somebody that's in there for years to flip. But maybe he was just a unique character because he's gigantic.
That's a good point.
What about Jake the Snake Roberts?
Well, that's
excellent
true.
point.
Ric Flair never really changed his character.
That's really true. Well,
that's a really good example.
I don't know. I didn't see the really super early Ric Flair stuff when he was much bigger, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that early '80s, he was the same. That the robe, he didn't. Rick never changed a thing.
You know, a Hall of Famer, and I mean this in all seriousness. For modern examples, look at a guy like Great Khali, that was always the same character, and he was a world champion.
I'm sorry. Did you just say Did you just put in the same sentence the words Hall of Famer and the Great Khali?
He is a Hall of Famer.
Yes, but that's because he's in the WWE Hall of Fame. That's not like a legitimate actual Hall of Fame like designation. I'm sorry. Just because you open doors for the Indian wrestling community, that's great. Love representation. But let's face it, he was about as talented in ring as my left ovary.
I
And
wonder where we were going there.
to actually put those words into a sentence and actually put meaning behind the phrase Hall of Famer in the same sentence as the great Khali, I'm like, Money Mike, go fuck yourself.
Like the new El Gigante or something.
Oh wow!
Exactly.
I wanted.
He was the modern El Gigante.
I so wanted you to say my left tit. I really did.
Mike,
really did.
Mike,
I know it was something else.
Mike, are you on drugs today? I mean, like
Why?
you like zoned out for a minute and didn't say anything, and then suddenly started talking about absolute complete bullshit nonsense that should never come out of anybody's mouth ever. Did you just have a stroke when you were quiet?
Oh, my internet was dropping when I asked him that, and he just sat there and ignored me.
I think he had a stroke.
I couldn't hear you. My internet was giving me issues.
We're going with stroke.
No, my internet was giving me issues. But I was thinking of, here's a more viable option maybe. Look at a guy like Mark Henry. He never really, I guess he had a couple of character changes. But overall, the concept of the world's strongest man, I believe he kept that for the majority of his career.
No,
even through the Hall of Fame run.
He wasn't called the world's strongest man, sexual chocolate Mark Henry.
Kurt Angle, I guess, then. Maybe.
Kurt Angle is another one.
That's an excellent example. Henry.
Arn Anderson that we're seeing on our screen right now.
Henry, what's your point?
So I don't know if anybody else saw it, but when they were lowering the cage and trying to set the building on fire with the pyrotechnics, they just stopped lowering the cage so some dumbass in the ring with a camera could get it and him out of the ring. And I thought that was just the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in my life.
Is that a block in Arn Anderson's tights, or is he just happy to be there?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I was going to make light of the fact that Lex Luger looks like he's
got sex hair. It looks like he just got done plowing.
He does have sex hair.
Sex hair, yeah.
Well, Elizabeth is right there.
Yeah, exactly. So
let's talk about how she's not in the Hall of Fame
Her hair is
yet.
kind of like her hair is usually more like woman's, where everything is there's not like any of these flyaways that we see that I have because I woke up from a nap and just rolled out of bed. But she's got a little bit of like frizz and a revelation 26 years later.
Man, that was such a this whole.
That wasn't one of my notes.
Such a great angle. God, I love.
But one of my notes was there were multiple places where it looked like the cameraman didn't know where the hell to go, but particularly in those first couple of matches where, they're not used to these guys flying around everywhere, and they were just in the way.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yep.
They must have borrowed these guys from the same division of Turner Sports that covered NASCAR.
Nice.
Terry, do you like NASCAR?
No, not really. I had friends in college that wanted me to go. We went to Atlanta to a race, and they're like, "You'll fall in love with it," and I didn't.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine who was like, "You're gonna love this. It's so awesome." And I'm like, "Dude, we just watched them turn left for 3 hours. What?"
And we got pelted with little rubber things coming off their tires the whole time.
Oh my God!
It's amazing to think, as I look at Michael Buffer, that this was the thing that almost chased off Eric Bischoff. Because they decided to waste money on something they didn't need for the War Games match.
Wait a minute. Didn't we
Michael
watch
Buffer.
this at Top Guy Weekend?
Uh-huh.
We watched this match at Top Guy Weekend.
Oh,
Yeah, we did. And I believe somebody asked the question. I believe Henry asked
It was Henry.
Eric the question. Why is Michael Buffer here?
Yeah.
You're leaving out context. Both Tony Schiavone and Mark Madden and Eric Bischoff were talking about what a gigantic suckhole in terms of money Michael Buffer was, which prompted me to ask the question, well, if this guy's such a waste of money, why is he here? You don't need him. because there's not going to be two people fighting it out for the world heavyweight title. You're going to lock 8 guys in a cage, and the heel team's going to win because this is War Games, and that's how it works.
See, I much prefer when they did the infographic of the War Games rules, and like Mike Tenay would break it down on commentary, as opposed to taking up pay-per-view time of somebody having everybody's attention and explaining the rules, because this takes a legit like 2, 3, 4 minutes to explain all the rules of War Games.
So a couple years later, I think it was in '98, and I was watching this a little bit the other day. They changed the rules a little bit. You know, I think here it can't end until everybody's in there.
That's
but
correct.
The '98 version, they set it every 30 seconds. Here's a reminder: it can end at any time.
No,
see, that's terrible, because
See,
the
I
whole
gotta check that
concept
out.
of War Games was that it couldn't end until you had to survive.
Yeah.
Like it, and then the
And
match
it used to
didn't
be a submission
truly
or surrender,
begin
right?
until everybody was in, and then it was the match beyond, because you've been through this entire 8, 10, 12-minute match, and now you can actually win or lose.
Right.
But that still had
And
to
it
be
was
better
the
than
whole-
1991 when Sid Vicious tried to murder Brian Pillman.
Well, which is available in the very deep, dark archives of Top Guy Theater.
And that is literally a 5-star match involving Sid Vicious.
Which is literally the only 5-star match that Sid Vicious has ever been
still
involved in his life.
And here's the thing about 5-star matches and the whole rating system. Fuck Dave Meltzer. That's all I got to say about that. There's just that's it.
Oh,
If this
okay.
had been
That
a
was the
post
whole.
on social media, he would have typed, "That's it. That's the post."
Yep.
I will say this: my first ever live show was in 1987 at the Florence Lauderdale County Coliseum in Florence, Alabama, and it was Memphis Wrestling, and that happened to be the one year where Sid Vicious was Lord Humongous, and that is the only thing that I took away from going to that show, because I was like 7 or 8 years old at that point, and apparently there was a Lawler versus Tommy Rich match that I didn't remember anything about, but I saw this freaking giant guy in a hockey mask, and I, as a 7 or 8 year old, remembered that.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt. I thought we saw Lord Humongous earlier tonight. No, I'm sorry. That was Colonel Robert Parker. We keep carrying on.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So it must not have been softball season then when that show happened, Terry.
I guess not.
And it's the person that starts every War Games ever. Arn
Every War
Anderson.
Games match, it's Arn
Yeah.
Anderson, baby.
It's weird to me when his hand works. I'm not used to seeing that.
So
I know.
I asked this question a couple of times because I love the fact this was even mentioned, and it's so interesting, and I like to get other people's opinions on it. Undertaker has gone on record saying that the best technical wrestler of all time is Arn Anderson. What do you think about that, Terry?
He's up there. Because, I mean, look at him. He's a pretty big guy. I wouldn't want to mess with him, but we're talking about these other freaking giants. And he really makes it look real at that size. And that's huge to me.
People like, and then people get an argument of what the definition of a technical wrestler was, because generally when people think technical wrestler, the first person that comes to mind is Bret Hart. But before Undertaker said that, I didn't even think about Arn Anderson in that category. And now that you think about it, and now that you watch his matches, going back, like I respect Arn Anderson's matches 1,000,000% more now than I did when I was watching this live in 1996. I just didn't see anything in Arn Anderson back then. I didn't get him. But now, knowing, having a little bit more knowledge about wrestling, he is just so fucking good.
To me, he's the one, when you talk about the small group that you would say great technical wrestlers, he sold better. I think that was one thing, because, they always had those squash matches on studio shows where he would just like almost break the guy's arm or whatever. So that was good. But then when he finally got his comeuppance, he sold really well. And he was able to do all that stuff and talk, so He's in that group I was talking about.
I think an interesting point out, Phil, I'm glad you brought that up about Arn Anderson, because he's such a unique worker in the sense, and you can tell that by listening to his autobiographical take that he gives on the Arn show. One of the things that I think of is, you know what era I think he would have thrived in was the 2002 to 2007. Imagine him in that ruthless aggression era. Imagine if you could incorporate him into that SmackDown 6 of those great technical wrestlers like a Kurt Angle, like a Rey Mysterio, just the matches that he could have there. Or even with, say, like the Shelton Benjamins of the world, the Brock. I think him and a young Brock Lesnar, oh my gosh, that could be phenomenal. And I honestly think Arn Anderson in the Ruthless Aggression era, he's your WWE champion. Or at least for part of the time, he's the champion.
Here's the thing. I don't think Arn Anderson, and I don't mean this way, he's not a world title guy. He's a utility guy. He's the guy that, he puts the world title in jeopardy. He helps other guys out. But I don't think Arn Anderson was molded into a world title type of person. And not for not because he's bad at wrestling or bad at promos or bad at anything, but he's so much better as a heater or as the mid-card guy or as the guy fucking everyone up or as the guy running interference all the time that I can't picture him as a world champion and making it work.
Go ahead, Henry.
I could, if you go into the era before, if you'd put him starting his career in like 76, 77 instead of 86, 87, I think he would have been world champion because he fits right up there with a Jack Briscoe, a Jerry Briscoe, a Dory Funk Jr., Terry Funk. Where these guys are not super cut, they're not super bodied guys, but they're just, and they're not like super like not proficient technical, but they are technical pro wrestlers that tell stories, and they make you believe everything that's happening in the ring.
I do have there was one spot, and Arn Anderson might even mention this, or somebody, I'm pretty sure it's been mentioned out there somewhere. One point, the only point I can think of where Arn Anderson would have fit perfectly as champion is right before Ric Flair got back to WCW from WWF. Imagine coming back and having to take that mantle back as the top of the heat from a guy. It's like, hey, it could be like Triple H, Shawn Michaels kind of thing. Shawn Michaels left, and Triple H was left to hold down the fort. Ric Flair left, and who's holding down everything with the Horseman? Arn Anderson. That would have been a great storyline.
So Terry's got a great point. We're gonna go right into this private chat. Arn versus Kurt Angle.
That
Kurt Angle versus anybody ever.
Who the hell is Circumference? Yes. Who is Circumference?
Oh, it's just a made up name.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm like, who? I don't remember the Circumference gimmick.
I don't know. I think at any point in his career, Arn Anderson would have made a better world champion than Sid Vicious ever did.
Yes.
Oh, I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah. But I have to tell you guys too.
I'll go for a hot take here. Sid Vicious being WWF champion in that transitional period between Shawn Michaels losing his smile because he's a pussy and doesn't want to fight Bret Hart again, to WrestleMania 13, where they put it on The Undertaker, devalues not only the WWE title, but WWE as a whole in that period of time between the time he wins it and the time he loses it.
Well, remember, it was originally supposed to be Vader at Survivor Series. Exactly. I would have much preferred that.
And that because...
And I bet you it would have been Vader again. Had all that. It would have been Vader would have dropped it to Vader would have dropped it to Taker.
Wait, Kevin Nash is running too? What is this where we have Big Show, Giant, and Kevin Nash literally sprinting to the ring in their entrances here?
Why is the door on the
floor? We don't have all that.
Did he? No, this is like. Did he? How many times did he just tear his quad running to the ring? You think?
No, he hadn't torn them yet. He hadn't hurt them yet.
That was the start. They were starting like weekend with that run.
Yes.
One of my points that I wrote down was in this match, this 2-on-1 portion has to be the most lopsided. It's the biggest ratio you're going to get, and it is your opportunity to just pummel some guy until his friend comes in and the other guy's just beating Lan over there in the corner.
No disrespect to Scott Hall or Kevin Nash, but if this wasn't a handicap match, Arn Anderson could work circles around both of them.
I agree.
Yeah.
And he
I mean,
makes
Scott
them
Hall is a
look
hell of a
like-
worker. And, Kevin Nash, he's got it. I mean, he's not exactly like a 5-star wrestler, but, Kevin Nash in the ring, he's got a presence to him, but 100% correct on that.
One thing I like about the War Games, it's an opportunity basically for like 7 hot tags to happen.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a really unique perspective.
6, I guess. 6 hot tags to happen. It's great.
6 hot tags. Isn't
I
that
like-
the name of Frank's sex tape?
Wow. Okay. Just one second.
I like that comment about the hot tags for the War Games match, because that's a great point, and it's a great way to do the thing Eric Bischoff always talks about like, say, building anticipation. It really does, because it's almost like with the Rumble where you have that countdown clock.
Yeah,
You mean
speaking
the
of the
countdown
countdown
clock Lex
clock,
Luger
they
just
had a
ignored?
snafu with this.
Yeah, he just ran it
They
like
sent him.
27
They
minutes
either
early.
sent him out too early, or the timing was off with the graphics people.
Yeah.
And they had the thing up with like 8 seconds left, and he's already in the ring. Like, no, he's good.
That's called
Like, I
Titan
know
time.
Titan time is a
Titan
thing.
time,
They probably
yeah.
didn't. They probably didn't time these out exactly at 2-minute intervals or however long they were, but help us suspend our disbelief a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you think, and this is kind of a broader question, but what do you think about, I mean, these WCW era and NWA like War Games matches are obviously the best, but what do you think about, say, the takes on the War Games match? Like, we've seen the NXT versions of War Games. We've also seen TNA had a very popular concept known as Lethal Lockdown, which is essentially a War Games match as well. But what are your thoughts on kind of the spin-offs of the War Games match?
The TNA one I liked because it had the spirit of the War Games is that there's a top on it. And the fact that NXT's version did not have a top on the cage, like, it's it's a glorified cage match with very complicated rules.
Yeah, but it made for some really
thing that
good
made
spots.
it special was the top on it. And I understand Triple H tried to put a spin on it and say that, it's a different era of wrestling and they need to be able to utilize. And I'm like, it's just not War Games now because you took the top off.
Speaking of NXT, Terry,
Well, when
have
are
seen-
you going to take your top off? I mean,
I was waiting on a
Have you
took the
seen
top
any of
off
the new
comment.
NXT?
I mean, I thought we said I couldn't do that, but if you insist.
oh, Henry, I saw enough of your breasts in Washington. Okay.
Wow. Terry, have you seen any of the new NXT?
No, I don't think
It
I've seen
sucked.
any of the
Hogan
NXT
too.
2.0
Hogan's in there. It's not over yet.
Yeah, I watched the first episode and that was it. I'm out on NXT. It's just not the same. It doesn't have the same feel. And I know that's exactly what they're going for. It's not the old NXT, but it's not a good NXT.
But I think talent brings you. I had to see Braun Breaker.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I think Braun Breaker.
I hate
is
that
a
I'm
great
calling him
spot.
that, but I had to see him because, man, I was a huge Steiner fan. When I was a little kid, I'd go spend the night with my friends, and we would put these little short things on and jump off the couch, and we were like beating the crap out of Doom, It was great. That was my show.
I as I watch this, I wonder something. With all that money that Hogan managed to screw Turner out of, why did he never get hair plugs?
Oh, come on. Being half bald was his thing at this point.
Did they spend like tens of thousands of dollars? Vince McMahon did to try to edit the hair.
that
Yeah.
editing to make his hairline higher.
Wait, was that a real
I don't
thing?
remember what the
Yeah,
name
that
of
was a
the
real thing in WWE.
technique
Vince,
was,
Vince
but they
did
had
what?
to actually
Yeah.
they made his hairline higher.
I don't know if it's all Terry's or what, but I think if I let my hair grow out, it might look like that.
Hey, don't
Well,
worry.
that
I
just
got the
doesn't work
receding.
for me, brother.
Don't worry, I got a receding hairline too, so you're not alone.
I love
think
my
this is
beautiful hair.
This is his signature look, guys. This is.
I mean, it really
agree.
is, and I'm
Yeah.
just glad I'm female and don't have to.
Yeah,
ever worry
if he like shaved his head, I'd like to see that, but then I would probably not like to see it anymore.
Well,
I.e.
that's like,
It's
Shawn
like
Michaels.
when Shawn
I
Michaels
was gonna
shaved
say the
his head. I'm
Shawn
like,
Michaels
ah.
one. And even Triple H, when he first cut his hair, do you remember that in 2012 when he first cut
Yes,
his
when he
long
first
hair?
went to the very cropped.
It
Oh my
took
word.
me a while to get used to that. Like, I'm okay with it now because I've seen him wrestle like that a bunch of times now. But at first, it didn't look natural.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad Sean is. I mean, we don't see because Sean wears that hat practically glued to his head. But I believe he does. He has let it grow back. So
Ric Flair doing Ric Flair things right here.
Yeah, he is.
Luring him in.
Great.
Here's a question, and this kind of ties into the War Games concept, kind of ties into the map of the location. They always held these War Games matches, correct me if I'm wrong, in the South Carolina.
well,
Or in
North Carolina,
Winston-Salem.
but they held
Win-
them
yeah,
in
think
Win-
Fall
Crockett.
Brawl 2000.
That didn't have a War Games match. 'Cause it
Yeah, I
was in
think
Buffalo.
99 and 2000 didn't, and they ran them in different arenas because
Yeah.
the primary reason they ran these arenas was because they knew they could fit 2 rings out.
Yep. And well, what I was going to ask is, do you think they could have run a War Games match somewhere other than Crockett territory that was familiar with the concept? Do you think they could have run, say, a War Games match in a New York
Yes.
in a New York arena or in a
Of course.
West Coast arena?
When they were hot, when WCW was hot, 97, 98, even 99, they could have done it.
Okay,
I'd have paid good money to watch
really
them work
was
2 rings
curious
onto the
about
floor at the Garden.
I mean, TD Garden could fit 2 rings. It's just a matter. It's all a matter of because remember you take the floor seats out and it's a big hockey rink, so of course you can do it. You're just giving up ticket real estate. What are you doing?
You know, this will sound silly, I imagine, but they use 2 distinct rings. Wouldn't it be possible to just build one rectangular ring for like a War Games style match, where instead of those turnbuckles on the one side that separate the rings, you just have them in one great big ring?
So like a turnbuckle in the middle, so you don't have really lengthy ropes.
I like it. I think it would look really weird. Look like a big
I
old
think it would
fucking
look
candy
really
bar.
strange if that was just one long rectangle. I'm like, that's not wrestling.
Yeah, I like the 2
It's a
rings.
square.
I like the 2 rings.
Here
Well, they
comes
left a
Sting.
To be
gap
honest
there.
with you,
For
for a
sure.
modern concept, since they have a men's and women's Royal Rumble, I've always been an advocate of run the 2 Rumbles at the same time, men in one ring, women in the other.
No. Have you ever
No.
tried shooting something like that?
No.
Jiminy Christmas.
Wow.
No.
That is almost as
And
bad
then
if
you'd
the
have
pay-per-view.
people like throw it, like they'd have to be separated because otherwise you'd have where the 2 corners meet, you'd have people running into each other and
Or just let's all remember World War III, okay?
Yeah.
exactly. Money Mike,
World
you're
War
fired.
III was a
No, you
terrible
can't look.
concept as a pay-per-view. As a real thing, it sucks a lot more.
What'd you say?
Yeah.
Let's
I
edit
said,
that.
as a pay-per-view concept, World War III was terrible. As a real thing, it sucks a lot worse.
Is that an edit point, Mike?
No,
Yeah.
Yep, that's an edit.
He just said
I don't
more
think
stuff.
so.
I mean,
So
I mean,
here's
war
my here's
sucks. We're looking at these guys going to war right now. And
do you think that it hurts to have your your forehead run into a fence like this? You think it hurts?
I'm sure
I
it
mean, I
does.
would think that
I'm-
pretty much any of this hurts.
depends on how smooth it is, and I don't think it's very smooth.
All right, because
Got
when
little
it makes
bumps
more
coming
sense when they're
off
like
and stuff.
ranking their head up against it, like they're going like this with it.
Yeah, because then you think, oh, it's gonna cut them because they're running across it like that.
Seems like sometimes the cages were kind of loose.
Mhm.
They'd hit them and they'd bounce way off, but they've got a lot of bars here. So it's probably pretty stiff.
Could you picture a War Games cage that was designed like Big Blue? Like if they had a Big Blue.
Ah,
Oh, that'd
no.
be
cage?
horrible. That'd be horrible.
I
That
thought
would-
of that
that would be
earlier
the
when we were talking
Punjabi
about no
prison.
top on it.
With a top.
So here's where the real sting comes out.
Here's the real
and-
thing. Now notice the change in camera. The camera work they had to do. They had to work around. They couldn't get too close up on the
Yeah.
fake Sting because it's great at a distance, but once you get you can't do those close-up shots like this with him, because then the ruse would be revealed that it's not the real Sting.
All right, Hogan. That was so bad on
It would
Hogan's
have been a Tony Schiavone edit point, and if you're a member of the What Happened When Patreon, unless it's a live Rampage, which they do before pay-per-views, we get together on Zoom with Tony, and we watch Rampage together on Friday nights. So I think this would be something he would talk about, where if you could change the way it was shot so that you didn't have those close-up shots during the rest of the War Games match before it wouldn't look so weird when you transition to, we can't use these close-up shots because we can't give away that that's Jumpin' Jeff Farmer.
What I love, so this is one of my favorite things, is that he's like, y'all didn't believe me. You thought I turned your back on you. You thought I turned my back on you. So it was more like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. I'm out. Like,
when he said you were cool, he pointed to the referee.
Right.
Was fake Sting the best storyline since say WrestleMania?
No.
Say the original WrestleMania. Is that the best idea since the original WrestleMania?
No.
This right here is why you're never allowed to book.
Yeah. Usually I
double
don't
book
mind your
cage.
ideas, but you're like hitting 000. Like,
Oh my God!
I don't know what is wrong with you today.
I have been staring at General File practice aids since 8 a.m.
You've been staring at what aid?
General File practice aids.
Oh, I thought you were talking like you were staring at like a nurse's aid or something. I was like, what?
No.
That was delayed. No.
No. Because I had a smart retort, but I decided not to use it.
That is the most erotic sharpshooter I've ever seen.
I know the fact that he's just going up and down like that. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
You know whose sharpshooter was actually my favorite was The Rock's. I love The Rock's version
Rock
of the sharpshooter.
did it quite well, and you could see, because one of the things I loved about The Rock is his boots always had the open calf in the back, and you could always see those big ginormous calves.
All right. Something I never ever want to hear on this show again is erotic sharpshooter. Okay. Ever again. So the show still has.
Because it was a scorpion. It wasn't a sharpshooter.
Yes.
See, it's fake Sting though, so it wasn't a scorpion. It was a sharpshooter.
So guys, I think what we're gonna. There's obviously the match is over. There's a huge melee. Sting leaves the ring. NWO is triumphant. That shot right there of Hogan pushing Arn's head down between the rings is violent. And the show is going to go off the air with Lex Luger crawling away, going Stinger. So the only time he ever did anything good acting wise. Stinger.
Oh man,
Stinger!
I missed it. Speaking of acting, when they did the little thing before the match, and Sting was like, "That wasn't me, guys." Man, that was horrible. Horrible. Go back and watch that.
So let's we're gonna end on a high note as Stinger, and then he's getting beat. Stinger. And here's the other thing that I used to hate about Lex Luger is he's getting his ass handed to him in the ring, and his knees are always bent, and whenever he would get hit, ow, ow. It's almost like the proctologist has come to shove something up his ass, and it's ow. So anyway, yeah, I don't have one of those. No, not well. Stinger! Oh, we got Ric Flair over here now, low blowing. It's like Jesus Christ. There's Randy. Randy's involved now. So let's go around the room. We're gonna start with you, T-Weave, on your thought. Fall Brawl 1996.
So I didn't remember it a great deal. I mean, I knew a couple of matches, but overall, I thought it was good. There were some good matches, even like the first one with DDP. I liked it. It went a pretty good while. It was good. Yeah, I mean, thumbs up. I don't know if y'all, what kind of ranking system y'all have, but
we don't rate it. We don't rate it. It's more or less like we watch back. We want to know what you think about it. It's I mean, you're getting what you're paying for in the time, right?
Yeah.
Because now, again, we're watching just another. This is probably why the NWO flattened out after a while, is because they just always ended the show beating the hell out of somebody.
Yep.
And they're doing that now with Macho Man Randy Savage. Let's go to Michael McClanahan, who was clearly the heat seeker tonight. Your thoughts on Fall Brawl 1996? And by the way, he was only 1 year old when this show happened.
I was one year and about 2 months, actually. But, Terry, T-Wee, fantastic having you on as always. I thought you brought a lot to the show, and thank you so much for agreeing to come on and discuss this. I love watching shows that I haven't gotten to see before. I also got a little bit of heat from Brandy, which was enjoyable. I couldn't believe it. You can't always hit home runs all the time, folks. But you know what? This was always a fun night. It's great hanging out with you guys. I joked earlier that I'd worked all day. I really have. So getting to end my day by hanging out with you guys, awesome as usual. Can't wait for the next one. I love doing this.
Miss Brandy.
I love this show. I love everybody talks down about the golden era, like the 92 to like 97 to like right before we get into the real, what we would call the Attitude Era or the Monday Night War era. I love this era because that was my childhood. It brings back a lot of great nostalgic feeling. And I mean, there was a lot that was bad. But there was still a lot of stuff that was really good, and it's always nice to go back and get to hang out with those feelings that make you feel young, because Money Mike always has to make all of us feel old. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I loved it. I love getting to hang out with you, Terry. Obviously, we'll have you back again, and you'll actually get to pick something this time.
Thanks for having me.
Henry?
Betty thinks you too.
Oh, Betty.
I love those fat heads, especially the fact that one of them's me.
Henry, your thoughts? You're on mute. There you go.
Overall, I think this is a good show that stands up. I'm not fond. I'm still watching the end of the show. Miss Elizabeth just got tagged by Hulk Hogan. That doesn't really feel like it fits well today. But overall, this was a good show.
What, he hit her?
Have you stopped watching? She got spray painted.
Oh, tagged. Okay, I thought you
tagged.
Meant, that's fine. I mean, that was their thing back then, was the spray paint. I thought you meant he hit her, which that would have been shitty. That kind of stuff doesn't age well. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was it. That was all I had.
Okay. Super Phil, still going with that.
I really only have two things to say about this pay-per-view. Number one, as a string of matches, it wasn't necessarily great, but as a launching pad into fantastic stories and the reign of WCW for nearly 2 years was spot on. This right here was the launching pad. And the second thing is, even though this wasn't the best pay-per-view for matches, this was the absolute best pay-per-view to ever feature an erotic sharpshooter.
All right, goddamn. I'm still looking at another great name besides Lord Humongous is Circumference. That's and the way it's spelled, you could definitely, that could be someone's porn name, but it's a good one on that, T-Wee. I look back fondly on this era. I won't say it's the best show that came out of it, but WCW was fun to watch. And I look back fondly on, honestly, 95 to like mid 99. Mid 99 is when it started to get really, really bad and hard to watch. And it gave WWE a run for the money, and we've got the product that we have now because of it. It's revolutionary. Everything going on in this, at the end of this, the spray painting, everything, it was good stuff. And I look back fondly on it. I'm glad we covered this show. it's what's silly to me is that they spend the last 15 minutes of the pay-per-view beating on Randy Savage, spray painting him, and posing. That's not really what I spent my $29.95 to see. They maybe could have gone longer on another match or longer on the War Games, but that's my only critique of it. So, T-Weave, I appreciate you being here tonight. I am thrilled that you wanted to come on here with us and listen to us do our thing. I'd love to have you on again, and I mean that. There's other people that we're gonna have on again too, but I want you to come on again. Pick any show you want. I don't care if it's something from 1986, like the first show you ever watched. But I appreciate you being here. I appreciate getting to know you. I'm back in that Twitter chat now, so I'll get to know you even more there. With that being said, for Super Phil, Henry, Brandy, Michael, and our guest Terry, thank you so much, everybody, for being here, and we will see you next time on TGT.
14 WrestleManias.
A leg drop, an elbow smash, a body slam.
Are you ready to fight? Who will survive?